Pusha P. Yeah, Pusha P. Turn me up. Turn me up, P. Corners in the paddock, gave my piece. Pusha P. Cop new hammers for my piece. We don't want
Hello, wonderful people of YouTube. This is Cree Cree. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. As always, I truly appreciate you. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, but life happens, things happen, and I'm here now. So let's get into it. So I just got through watching the Netflix documentary, The Greatest Night in Pop. And I must truly say that I was very moved, very touched by what I watched. A lot of you youngsters out there don't remember anything about when this song came out. We Are the World that came out in 85. I was a little kid back then. I had to have been maybe 4 years old. I remember it well. I don't have a lot of memories as 4 years old, but I remember that because that song, you couldn't go anywhere inside or outside of your house without listening to that song somewhere. TV, radio, wherever, in the grocery stores, in church, at school, sporting events, weddings, funerals, whatever. They played that song everywhere. It got to the point where we was kind of getting sick of it. But watching that documentary now and watching it as an adult and seeing the history behind everything that went on with it, it definitely gives you a little bit of a different look at it from a different perspective. And it seems a little more special now that we know everything that went in it. I would definitely urge you, if you haven't seen it, especially if you're like me, I'm a lover of documentaries and I'm a lover of music. So a musical documentary for me, that's everything. So if you one of them people like me that love music and love documentaries and the science and everything that goes behind it, then definitely watch this documentary. You will love it. You'll love it. I know you will. So I want to give my review and my take on the Netflix special. I would say if you haven't seen it, I would say go watch that first and then come back and look at this video so you won't say that I'm spoiling it for you or anything like that. But I do want to give my review, little things that I took from it that I thought made it significant and definitely some funny parts in here for sure. So if you don't know, the song We Are the World was a charity single that was released back in March of 1985. It was written by Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson that co-wrote it together. But the story about how it all started goes back before then. We're going to go back to December of 1984. And what I was surprised about, and what I believe maybe a lot of people might have been surprised about, was that all of this was kicked off by Harry Belafonte. He's the one that started all of this. So back in, especially the early 80s, there was a huge famine crisis going on in Africa. A lot of the African countries, especially Ethiopia, was really dealing with it. There was a lot of sickness, a lot of diseases, a lot of people starving, not eating, people dying. It was devastating. I can remember being a little kid just watching the commercials, the Sally Struthers commercials that used to come on. If you donate 25 cents a day, then you can help this child get fed and clothed and get medical attention and things like that. I remember seeing it on TV and how traumatizing that was to me. And I know to a lot of other little kids like me back then. But Harry Belafonte was actually there in Africa, seeing all of that up close and personal. And God, if it was traumatizing for me just looking at it on TV, just imagine looking at that directly dead in front of your face, seeing all the death and devastation right there. I know that did something to him. It moved him so much that when he came back to the States, he really wanted to do something about it. And so he called on this big talent manager at the time. His name is Ken Kragen. They met up at Ken Kragen's office one day, and Harry Belafonte told him, he was like, hey, I just came back from Africa. I just came back from Ethiopia, and I was just devastated by what I saw, and I want to do something to help them. Let's put together like a benefit concert with all the black artists and want to do something like that. A few weeks before that initial meeting took place, there was another single that came out over in the UK from, I believe Band-Aid. It wasn't Live Aid, it was Band-Aid. And they had that song, Do You Know It's Christmas Time? And that was similar. That was another charity single that was to, to help the starving people in Africa and all of the other countries and things like that. And so Ken Kragen said, well, hey, why don't we do something like that and just do it here for the U.S.? And we just have all of the singers from the U.S. to come together and do a benefit song like that. And Harry Belafonte said, yeah, okay, well, we could do that. We can do that. And then, somewhere down the line, if we want to do concerts to help raise more money, then yeah, let's go for it. So Ken Kragen is having to decide who he wants to work on this song. His biggest client that he had at that time was Lionel Richie. Now, I know some of you youngsters, y'all may know Lionel Richie. He the judge from American Idol, and, he Nicole Richie's daddy. But back then, back in them early 80s, in the early to mid 80s, Lionel Richie was the man. He owned them early 80s. Him and Michael Jackson, I tell you. Lionel Richie was one of the few black artists that had videos airing on MTV back then. So anyway, he called Lionel Richie and he said, hey, I need your help. Harry Belafonte just came into my office and he wants to do something similar to Band-Aid, where we want to do like a charitable single to raise money for the famine crisis in Africa, in Ethiopia. But Lionel Richie had a lot going on back then. His solo career had took off, since he left the Commodores. He having his own hit solo albums. He was getting ready to go on tour, and he was actually gearing up to host the upcoming American Music Awards that took place on January 28th of 1985. So like I said, this initial meeting that they had was back in December around Christmas time of 1984, and the American Music Awards was in 1985. So keep that in mind. But even with all that he had going on and all that he had on his plate, he agreed to do it. He was like, of course, I want to do anything that I can to help. So after Lionel gets off the phone with Ken Kragen, he calls Quincy Jones and he say, hey Q, I just got off the phone with Captain Kragen, and he wants me to write a song similar to what Band-Aid did last month with all the black artists. Said Harry Belafonte came to see Captain Kragen and was like, hey, I want to do something to help us. He said, we got the white people helping the black people, but the black people need to be helping the black people, and we not doing that. So we need to do something. And so Quincy Jones was like, okay, well then cool. Yeah, let's get together. Let's get together and do that. So they decide that they want to have Stevie Wonder help. Lionel's trying to call Stevie Wonder, ring, 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 ain't able to get a hold of Stevie Wonder. Or Stevie Wonder's like, hey, I'll give you a call back. Stevie Wonder never calls him back. He calling and calling and calling him. And so in the midst of him trying to get a hold of Stevie, Quincy Jones hit him back up and he said, hey, I'm going to run over here to Michael Jackson's house later on. You want me to run this by him and, see if he down? Lionel was like, hell yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Because Michael and Lionel already have a working relationship. They were both label mates back in the day on Motown. They was both lead singers of their respective groups. Lionel was the lead singer of the Commodores, and then of course Michael Jackson was the lead singer of the Jackson 5. So they already kind of had sort of a bond, maybe a big brother, little brother type of a relationship in a sense. Lionel Richie told the story about how when Michael first learned how to drive, first place he drove was over to Lionel Richie house. Ain't that something? So Quincy hit Michael up. He said, yeah, let's get it. Bam. Magic is about to be made. They couldn't get a hold of Stevie. We're still trying to call Stevie. Stevie ain't returning nobody's calls. And so they was like, well, you know what? We just gonna have to start this without him. So the next day, Lionel goes over to Michael Jackson's house, which back then, Michael's still living in the Jackson compound. He has not gone over to Neverland yet, so he's still at the house with all the other brothers and sisters and Joe and Catherine and all them, along with his many exotic pets that he had, which, he had, of course, Bubbles, and then he had his birds and his dogs, and then he had snakes. And so they're sitting up here trying to write a song, and the animals is just all running rampant and making noise all over the place. Lionel Richie can't concentrate. They each doing their own separate thing. They each on the phone with whoever they need to be talking to about their own separate projects while still trying to come together to write this song. The first thing that they have to do is they have to determine what type of song they want to do. They want to do an anthem, or if they want to do something more chill, or if they want to do something upbeat. And so then once they determined that, then it just kind of was like, well, trying to put some lyrics together with it. Some stuff was working, but then some stuff wasn't really working. They were just kind of going back and forth, and they was kind of bullshitting for a while because, I mean, they thought they had time because nobody knew what date they were going to do this for. They didn't know what other singers they were going to add to it. They knew nothing like that. All they knew is they needed to write a song. And so without really having any real information as to when and where, what's going to happen, they kind of fiddled around, kind of bullshitted a little bit. But what they didn't know is that while they was getting together writing a song, Captain Kragen is back at the house getting talent together, trying to figure out, well, who we gonna get on this thing. At first, they were initially thinking trying to get all the black artists together. Well, at least that's what Harry Belafonte had first brought to his attention. But then Captain Kragen said, well, hey, you know what? Let's not just make it black artists. Let's do all of the famous U.S. artists that's out right now. We want to make this as unified as possible. So how about getting all different types of singers from all different types of genres that's in the U.S. that's hot, and let's try to bring them all together for this one benefit. So Harry Belafonte was cool with that. And so him and his team went to work. And the one thing that they started to think of was Lionel Richie is getting ready to host the American Music Awards. So that would be the best place to start, because everybody who's anybody in music, especially at that point in time, is going to be at this awards show. So you don't have to worry about scheduling. You don't have to worry about logistics and booking separate flights for each individual artist to get there, because everybody's already going to be there. So then they was able to get a hold of the producer of the American Music Awards and asked him like, hey, who all gonna be there? Who all gonna be at the party? And so he was able to give him a list of the guests that were gonna be there. Yeah, Kenny Rogers was gonna be there. Madonna was gonna be there. Prince was gonna be there. Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, Kim Carnes, Cyndi Lauper, Diana Ross. I mean, you name it. Everybody was gonna be there. So then they kind of had to narrow it down from there. Because pretty much what was going to have to happen is the recording of this song was going to have to be done on this one night, on this night of the AMAs. And so it was important to know who was going to be there and who would be able to commit so they could get all of this set up. And at this point, they only had a few weeks, less than a month away, to get everything cracking. So soon after, they were able to get a hold of a lot of people that were going to be at the awards and asked them if they were interested in being a part of the benefits single, and they got a lot of yeses. So Bruce Springsteen said yes, Cyndi Lauper said yes, they got Bob Dylan in there, he said yes, Steve Perry from Journey was there. I mean, they had a nice lineup already and they weren't even done. Meanwhile, Lionel and Michael still over there at the house bullshitting on doing a song. They still ain't wrote not one lick of a word. So moving on, let's fast forward to around January 18th of 1985, which would be exactly 10 days before the AMAs. Michael and Lionel still don't have no words written. And so Captain Kragen calling Lionel like, hey, what y'all got? Oh, we don't have nothing yet. We still working on it. Oh, no. See, you're not understanding. It's not just you and Michael and Quincy and possibly Stevie. I done got more people involved in this. We got singers coming. Kenny Rogers said that he was gonna do it. Billy Joel said that he would do it. Willie Nelson said that he would do it. And so Lionel like, well damn, I didn't know all that. It's crunch time. Quincy came over to Lionel's house and was like, look here, y'all need to have a song, and y'all need to have a song yesterday. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not making no moves on my end until y'all turn me in a song. So that done pretty much done lit a fire up Lionel and Michael's asses to go ahead and get a song together. So they went ahead and got together. He done went on over there to the Jackson compound with him and all the zoo animals, and they done cooked together up a song. And before the end of that night, We Are the World was born. The next day, they took it over to Quincy Jones' house and was like, hey, crossing their fingers, hoping that he like it, because if you don't like it, then we screwed. But luckily, Quincy Jones liked it. He was like, okay, yep, this is it. Let's go for it. Let's do it. So now we're going to fast forward again to January 23rd, which is 5 days before the AMAs. And Michael, Lionel, and Quincy, they're at the studio. Well, let me back up some. So while Michael and Lionel was still, you know, while they were writing it and while they were writing the song, Captain Cragen and the crew, they were going around town, you know, trying to scout the perfect studio that would be big enough to hold all of these people that they're trying to record. And they found A&M Studios to be the home front. So while all of this is going on, they're trying to keep everything a secret, but now since all the studios know that they're trying to find some place to hold all these people for this single, now word is starting to buzz around that there might be some kind of a big event going on with all the stars, but they're trying to keep it hush hush, but you can't do that, especially not in LA, because people talk. So once they got A&M Studios, then Quincy and Michael and Lionel all got together to record the demo. Quincy called some of his people, called his studio engineers and the lighting crew and cameramen, and get all of that set up, called his vocal assistant to help with vocal arrangements, and once they got the song and everything. So while they're there recording the demo, guess who on the stroll they tail up in the studio all late to the game? None other than Mr. Stevie Wonder himself, talking about, okay, I'm ready to work, I'm ready to write. What we doing? Really, bruh? All this time? Quincy had to pull Stevie to the side and was like, hey man, no, they done already wrote the song. They wrote the song already. We in there cutting the demo track now. Stevie was like, oh, okay, well, okay, that's cool, I guess. I mean, y'all could have told me. Why ain't nobody tell me? Lionel's like, bruh, I've been trying to get a hold of you for 3 weeks. I've been trying to call your ass since Christmas. You would not call me back. No matter how many times I called. Man, I couldn't wait on you. Man, me and Michael had to keep it moving. We had to keep rolling. And so Stevie was like, okay, you know, you right. My bad. Well, shit, I'm here now. What we gonna do? So finally, we got all 4 of them in the studio, finally working together. They cut the demo. Everything was good. By the time that demo was done, the very next day, Cragen and the crew made 50 copies of that demo and mailed it out to each and every person that was supposed to be involved in this project. And yes, I said mail because this is 1985. There was no internet, so it wasn't like you can just download a file and then just email it everywhere. No, they had to make physical copies of a cassette tape and send that all around the country via FedEx, depending on where each of these people were, because they weren't all in LA. Some people were still on tour. Some people were still in other cities doing other concerts and stuff like that. So yeah, time was of the essence, and it was crunch time all the way. So with each of these demo tapes that they were sending out, they also basically sent out a personal invitation, a formal invite, if you will, to each of these individuals, letting them know the date, the time, and everything. So it was going to be January 28th, and this was probably going to be around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, immediately following the AMAs. And we want to get this song together. Here's the song. Listen to it. Let us know what you think. Blase, skippy. So in the days leading up to the AMAs, Quincy had his vocal arranger assistant, Tom Baller. They got together because since they now knew who all was going to be singing on this song, now they basically have to break down, well, who's gonna stand where, who's gonna sing what, who's gonna be singing lead, who's gonna be in the background, who works well together. You know, they basically broke all of this down to a science. Because it's not like you have, you know, a bunch of R&B and soul singers that all kind of sing the same. No, we have, like I said before, very different genres all across the board, and we all come together to sing one song. So we have to mix it together where it's gonna fit right. Because it wasn't like, you know, everybody was gonna be singing their song in an individual booth, singing their parts, and then they're gonna mesh them all together. No, everybody was in one big room, vulnerability out and all, and we all gonna be singing together. So I'm gonna be singing my lead, and it's gonna be having all these people over here on the side watching me. I'm not gonna be in a booth by myself or none of that. Yeah, this is gonna be a challenge for real. They don't do nothing like that now. They don't do stuff like that now. But back then, yeah, that's how you know singers was really singing. Okay, so this concludes part 1. This is just part 1. Everything leading up to the big day. We're going to wrap it up right here and then tune in for part 2. I'll have that to y'all soon. So if you've seen it already, just let me know what you think about it down in the comments. And let's talk about it. And I will see y'all in part 2. My name is Cree Cree. Y'all be easy.